Yeah. So rock bottom isn't the end. It's the moment that your soul literally decides to rise. So today's guest, Aeon Archer, knows this truth firsthand. After years of battling addiction, he's been on a healing journey for 14 years. And today he stands at 205 days completely sober. We're going to be talking about what his journey looked like, the darkness, the awakening, and the daily discipline it takes to rebuild your life from the inside out. So his story is not just about recovery, it's about remembering who you are when everything else falls away. We'll explore the emotional and spiritual layers of addiction, how compassion becomes a lifeline, and how healing turns into purpose through his work with Spirit Sync Technologies, Merkaba retreats, and Archer Shock coaching. So this is going to be a real raw episode where we go into his awakening through recovery. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Bradley Nelson, iHeartRadio, and to our fans, listeners. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. Aeon, this is such an amazing topic. This hits home for me, as you know, and I can't wait to hear your story and to get it out there and to inspire people, especially men right now, because it's Movember. It's like Mental Health Awareness Month, and everybody is struggling.
Yeah, I'm super excited to share my journey. It has been, challenging but yet beautiful at the same time. And so if I can share something today that makes it a little easier for anyone else, that just sparks a small flame of awakening for them to either start their journey or find enough strength inside of them to make it to tomorrow, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, so tell us about it. So 14 years you've been on a healing journey, and today you stand 205 days completely sober. Can you talk about that?
Well, I often say that, I've been in recovery for 14 years and I have been sober for 205. And I think it's really important to make a distinction between being in recovery and being sober. Because the moment recovery was introduced to me as an option at 24 years old, that's when I started my recovery journey. And so, and me being sober, like relapses have been a part of that recovery journey. And even though I have been sober, gone back out, been sober, gone back out, been sober, gone back out, every single part of that has been a learning experience that has led me to now. I don't discount any of the time that I had sober, but I also don't discount any of the time that I was using, because there were lessons in every single experience, and I'm able to be sober here today because of those lessons. All of those experiences have been the framework that have created the structure that I needed in order to get better.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So what was your addiction?
I was a crystal meth addict and sex addict.
Okay.
And so I think that's very relatable for a lot of men. And also just, in my community specifically, crystal meth is a really bad addiction in the gay community. But it doesn't only, affect people who are gay. It affects everybody. And there are a lot of people
Yeah.
who struggle with this addiction in the silence. They don't ever come out and talk about it. I was what you would call a functioning addict. I was able to hide it really well. And there were benefits to that and not so many benefits to that, because when, for me, using and being able to hide it from the world, I was rotting from the inside out.
Yeah.
There is some level of a benefit to not being able to hide it, because then the world kind of rallies around you and forces you to get better. But when you are able to like maintain some level of mental constitution, what happens is you use until you literally can't use anymore, and your body starts to fatigue, your body starts to break down. And that's the place where I was at. This last time, I got to this place to where I was going to die, or I was going to choose to survive.
Right.
It's in that darkness that you really start asking yourself the more challenging questions about, like, why am I here? What am I doing? I know that there is more. Like, there's so much more for me to experience that I have been denying myself, because I struggled with addiction for 20 years, with that specific addiction for 20 years, until I found recovery at 24 years old. And so it's been this ever evolving journey. And for the first time in my life, I see my life on the other side of it. And I can't say that, like, throughout my 14 years of recovery, every time I would get sober, I couldn't imagine what my life would look like. I had a really difficult time seeing me on the other side of my disease. And for the first time in my life, I'm able to see that clearly. And that's shifted everything for me.
That's beautiful. As you know, I also went through an addiction, and I remember working in these high-profile law firms, and I would be snorting lines of cocaine and oxy in the bathrooms, and then going back to my desk, and like everyone's relying on me for all this like high-level stuff, and nobody had a clue. And it's such a confusing place to be because we're so stuck in it. And so
Yeah.
in my mind, all I cared about was like having a place to go do my drugs and like nothing mattered but the drugs. And I can also relate to that feeling of like I don't know how to live my life without something, without a substance to get me through the day. And that's terrifying. It's like you just outsource all of your power to something else to give you this false sense of confidence.
Oh, see, that just gave me chills because I can't express to you how many times I built my life on the back of my disease.
Yeah,
And every time I did that, because I was functioning and using, every time I did that, I backed myself into this corner to where like I didn't have the space to give myself the time to allow my body the time it needed to heal. And so I had to keep using in order to keep paying my rent, in order to keep putting
yeah,
food on the table, in order to keep the electric on, the car payment paid, the insurance paid, like because I needed time in order for my mind to recover. And when you're on drugs like that, like it takes months sometimes for your brain to heal in order to function at a similar level, because you reach this place of homeostasis like when you're using like that on a daily basis, like you are now at a new homeostasis, and in order to function normally you have to have that substance. And so when you take the substance away, the homeostasis is homeostasis is all thrown off. And so I would back myself into these corners time and time again, have an apartment, fill it with furniture, have a new car, all this stuff. And then I would be like, I can't hold this any longer. What do I do? And I would go to rehab, and everything that I had built would collapse again. And I'd have to start back at zero in a new city. I can't tell you, I've done this in Los Angeles, I've done it in Chicago, I've done it in Columbus, Ohio, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, over and over again. I had this happen to me because I kept building my life with that substance as a key element to my survival.
yeah. It makes you feel superhuman. And then like when you leave to go to rehab, you're right. Like it takes like months to
Yeah.
like get better. And then everything you built goes away. So it's like so easy for someone to say, just quit using. But no, it's like your whole body is adapted to using substances to make you get through your day. You're right. It's like
Yeah.
your morning coffee. So what shifted for you? How did you finally say, okay, like I've got this?
Well, it has been this evolution of shifting. And, I've always known deep down in my heart that I was here on earth to be of service. Even in my active disease, I had convinced myself that, I was using because God wanted me in the trenches to pass the message. And so here I am in my active disease, proselytizing how to get sober. And I can't, and it's ironic because when I look back at my life, I get messages from people who I would interact with while using, who said they got sober because of something I said while we were using together. And so like
Wow.
that reinforced my belief that I was meant to suffer for others to get well. And it took me a really long time to realize that the best way that I can be of service to other people is to be the best version of myself that I can be.
Mm.
And the real waking point came for me. I mean, it's just really this long journey of evolving my relationship to love, because that was a large reason why I used, because I grew up in a really rough home with parents that
I
were
was just gonna
abusive.
ask you, yeah, why did you start using in the first place, do you
Yeah,
think?
I
Yeah.
mean, parents that were abusive, a mom that's, I watched my mom get sexually assaulted and raped by my stepdad for like 14 years. And
Oh my
so like
God.
my idea of love was warped. It was distorted. And so, and then, I was surrounded by people who were making fun of me because of my weight. So I had body image issues. I felt unlovable, unworthy, broken. I wanted to be anyone else other than me, and I would have done anything else to be anyone else other than me. And
Right.
so when I was introduced to meth at 18 years old, all of that went away. For the first time, I
Mm.
felt pretty. I felt attractive. I felt safe enough to actually engage in the sexual energy that had been building up in me since I was a teenager. That stuff happens, the hormones, all this stuff, and it's all trapped in this really confusing body. and I have nowhere to nothing. I'm too afraid to do anything with it. So for the first time, I was able to set that free, and it clicked. It fit me and my mental health disorders so perfectly that for the first time, I felt at ease, and it worked until it didn't, and it does. And
Yeah.
that's the thing with substances is they work until they don't work any longer, because they're a shortcut to a lot of work that I needed to do to come to that state of ease and serenity on my own without the assistance of anything else, with only a relationship with my higher power, with only this understanding of love that I have today, which has been a really long journey, and it's involved, you know, leaving the country to go to Peru for 6 months with the Shipibo shamans and doing 30 ayahuasca ceremonies, because I saw it on an episode of Oprah when I was 14, skipping school. and, uh,
Wow.
and and so and then
30, 30 ceremonies of ayahuasca. Wow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and you know, and that still didn't fix me. This whole time I was looking for a quick fix. I was looking for a savior. I wanted to either win the lottery and then I'd get sober. I wanted to meet the right person and then I'd get sober. Get the right job and then I'd get sober. You know, do all these ayahuasca ceremonies and it would be easy to get sober. But you know, it really was. I had to surrender to where I was actually at.
Mm.
Because if I don't accept where I'm at on the map of my life, then I'm never going to be able to get to where I want to go, because I'm trying to steer a ship that I'm not in. And so it's like, you know, when I finally surrendered to my reality, and I surrendered to like the things that I needed to work on, and I set my compass, you know, in a direction of travel that allowed me to grow and evolve, then things started happening. And the crazy thing is, like, I'm so divinely supported. We, each of us, are so divinely supported by the universe that when we make that decision, it almost becomes effortless. And I had been
Right.
fighting the current all this time, and all I really had to do was let go.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can relate to this, but for me, it was almost like I woke up and a switch was flipped. Because just like you, I had the burning desire in my heart to want more for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I would be using the drugs, but it would feel so disconnected from who I knew I was and wanted to be. And then one morning I was like, all right, I'm ready. And it was just like messed up. It was like something just said, okay, you're done. I recently quit smoking nicotine, and same thing is like one day I woke up and I was just ready to face it. And I
Mm.
can't explain it. Can you relate to that? And what do you think like happens?
You know, I would have to say, like, of throughout my entire recovery journey, that is definitely a very similar experience as to what I had this time getting sober. You know, what happened for me, it was a couple of things. You know, it was sort of divinely orchestrated. You know, I've been looking for, I wanted to feel like I belonged. I wanted to feel like I belonged to something bigger, something meaningful, something impactful. And I was working for an apartment management company, and they were not the best apartment management company. They were really tough to work with, because here I am
Right.
wanting to help their tenants, and they're trying to get as much out of them as they can. And there's the contrast there. It was just a lot of friction. And so I went to call one of my employees because I was a manager, and I accidentally called another friend of mine. His name's Dale Allen Rouse. He's a shamanic practitioner and an author, some amazing books. If you ever get the chance, check him out. Dale Allen Rouse on Audible and on Amazon. But anyways, so like I accidentally called him. And he's like, "Hey, I'm starting this group called Habitual Prosperity," and he knew nothing about my struggles. Like, I kept it, you know, really on the
Mm.
DL. He goes, "I'm starting this group called Habitual Prosperity, and I want you to be a part of it." And as soon as he said that, I knew that something had to change. And so I attempted to go to treatment on my own. So without anyone knowing. And so I went to treatment. I was there for 3 days. Because it was close to home, I left. And then I went back again to the same place, there for 3 days, and left. So I would get to the tough part, the hard part. And every single time I got to the hard part, I would chicken out and I would go home. And I was like, okay, you know, I was determined. And so it wasn't so easy. I had to really put myself in a situation that I knew I would be successful, because my disease had a lot of power over my choices once, you know, it got to that place to where it was running and I really had no control. Like, I would just go on autopilot. And so I decided to go to this place in Atlanta. And so I booked a plane ticket. I flew to Atlanta. It was the day before my birthday on Easter Sunday. And I get there. And so this is how I was saying, like, the universe was really working in my favor. I get there and they tell me they don't have a bed for me. And all I have is $30 in my pocket because I just used all the money I had to buy a plane ticket there. And mind you, this is Easter Sunday.
Wow.
And so I have no money. I really don't have anyone I can call. And they're refusing to give me a place to go for the night. They said the next best thing they could do was find me a bed at Salvation Army in downtown Atlanta. I had 70 pounds of luggage, all my electronics, all my, pretty things that I like to wear. And here I am, like having to go to an out Salvation Army in downtown Atlanta. And
Yes.
I was like, you know what? This calm came over me because I knew that I wanted this and I was willing to do anything to get it. And so
Right.
what I did is I took a train to a meeting house, like 45 minutes away from the airport. I had enough money to get a train ticket, and I sat in AA meetings all day long, trying to figure out what I was going to do because I was just at a loss. And then I went to the last meeting. It was like 7 o'clock, and that meeting was over at 8. And so I took because I had my yoga mat with me. I took my yoga mat and I went to the park and I sat in my yoga mat in the park and I did yoga until the sun went down. And I was this close to sleeping in the park because I didn't know what else to do. And I got a phone call from Christopher, who's my partner now, and he goes, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm in the park. I'm going to sleep here. He goes, oh,
Yeah.
he goes, my brothers don't sleep in parks. They either sleep in the Amazon jungle or on the top of mountains. And he got me a hotel room, which was really cool.
Aw.
But what happened was I spent 3 days in Atlanta, homeless, lugging around all my luggage. And I was so busy trying to figure out how to get and stay sober that I didn't even think once about using.
Right.
It was just like I was so preoccupied with it. I was so determined. It was in that determination
It was like
that
an
like,
adventure for you. It was
oh
like
yeah, and
distracting
I
to your
love it. And
mind.
that's the thing.
It was like fun. It was like, how am I going to do this? I got to figure this out.
Yeah. So the universe set me up perfectly because I was so excited about being in a new city that I'd never really been in, and also like trying to figure all this out. And I have a busy head, so it kept me busy until I got a flight to Florida from another treatment center who called me. I have no idea how they got my information. Called me and paid for me to go to Florida to this treatment center down there, and that was just kind of once I got there, it's really been incredible.
Yeah, wow. So it's a month that we're talking about men's mental health. And I mean, we should talk about men's mental health all the time. Do you think a lot of men are struggling with their mental health and why?
Well, there are a lot of pressures for men not to express themselves. And it's something that is it's entrenched in the way we've always been as a society. Men don't cry, and women are all feelings. But there is this lack of recognition that everybody has both energies within them, masculine and feminine. Where we have to
Yes.
have both polarities in order to exist. And so when we deny ourselves the ability to express ourselves, and whatever that looks like, what happens is we create micro traumas. And those micro traumas, they store themselves in the body. All those suppressed emotions store themselves in the body, and it causes us to get sick. And what happens is like over time, years and years, like for example, years and years of storing all that trauma that I experienced as a child, like my mind was so confused and my emotions were so knotted up that I didn't know one end from the next. Like I didn't know what it felt like to be happy or to be sad. Everything felt the same. And that's the relief that addiction gave me is everything felt the same, but completely numb. Where before
Yeah.
everything, I felt like a root canal all the time, overwhelmed with anxiety, and all I wanted to do was shut down. And so, what I would like to express for men, especially during this month, is we need to allow ourselves to soften up and feel safe enough to express ourselves, to express our emotions. And it's important that we cultivate relationships with others where we feel safe enough to do that. And whether it's just one person, if it's your partner, your wife, your best friend, but being able to express how we feel is crucial to us staying present and being able to create the reality that we wish for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Men definitely have that pressure to be strong and tough it out. And that's just not realistic for sure. So how was getting sober for you? Like, tell us the raw, dirty, because I know it's not fun.
Well, I it's uncomfortable. That's without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, it's still, honestly, it's still a little uncomfortable at 205 days. Like,
Yeah,
I had to create a new relationship with what it felt like to be hungry. Like I would confuse because I would go long periods of time without eating. I would confuse being hungry with craving. I
right.
had to get comfortable with the sensation of getting tired at night. Like that's so
Mm,
unfamiliar to me. I would just pass out. Whenever I had no steam left, I would just hit the bed and be out. So I had to develop a new relationship with, oh, I'm tired. This is what tired feels like. I don't know if I really like this feeling or not. Is how
Right.
normal how normal am I supposed to feel
Am
like
I
this when I'm
supposed to
tired?
feel tired? Yeah.
I had to get comfortable with taking naps because
Oh,
like that's a
totally.
huge part of my sleep routine, my sleep hygiene. There are so many behaviors that are normal to life that are so unfamiliar to me. And
Mm.
so learning to have a relationship with those behaviors and to start to recategorize them. I had to get comfortable with going to the bathroom. When you go long periods of time without eating, like going to the bathroom is, it's just weird. And so like going to the like I had to create a poop schedule because like
Yeah.
I'm not usually pooping on a schedule. And so and that's a huge part of me feeling good because if I can't go to the bathroom, I feel like shit all day long. And
Yeah.
so and I didn't even
Literally,
know
no
that
pun
was,
intended.
yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing until now.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning to have a relationship with my body because I was
Yeah.
so disconnected from my body that I didn't understand anything that it was telling me because I couldn't hear it. And so and then I'm also realizing that like part of the spiritual experience of living is being in your body. Our body
Yes.
is not the thing to escape when we become enlightened. Our body is the gateway to enlightenment. And that right there has been probably the most powerful lesson that I have gotten out of my entire recovery journey, where I spent so much time when I was a child wanting to be anyone else other than me, wanting to not
Mm.
be in my body, to come full circle to this place where I recognize that my body is the doorway for my soul to express itself. And the more I learn to love my body, the more it actually starts to thank me and starts to look better. I start to feel better. I starts to digest food better. It's like I didn't realize that all I really needed to do was love myself on this level, like all of me, like to have the life more. I mean, I'm living in Puerto Vallarta with this amazing view of the ocean. I have an incredible life today. It's simply because I choose every single day to one surrender the things that I cannot control gladly. I used to do that with like but now I wake up
Rage. Yeah.
every morning. If it's not in my control, I don't want anything to do with it because then it just adds all this extra unnecessary stress. And to love myself.
I can relate. I love how you talk about like every day, like having to relearn everything. For me, I remember when I got sober, like grass looked different. I looked at the sky and I was like, weird. It's like I'm looking at everything for the first time. And then like
Yeah.
I'm like, now I have to figure out how to like do everything. My body was so messed up that I was like beyond constipated. Like I swear I hadn't gone to the bathroom for like months. And like I felt like absolute garbage. And so I had to like go to the doctor and like tell them like I haven't shit for like so long and like literally I'm full of shit right now.
Yeah.
And like it was absolutely ridiculous. And my body then started healing and eventually I figured it out. But it's like being reborn in
Yeah.
this world that is so like has so many pressures and I just remember it feeling so strange.
Well, what's interesting is I used to be addicted to that feeling. To the like, there was a time in my recovery journey where I started to really enjoy the contrast. So I would get sober just so I could feel all the good feelings that come with like getting sober for a few months. Start to feel better. You start to get
Yeah.
all those good endorphins going again. But then I would plateau and then I was like, okay, this isn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be. Like, okay, so
Oh my
then I
God,
would
I'm
go
going
out.
through that right now with the life change because I
But
was jacked and I like made all these changes and now I'm like plateauing and I'm like kind of feel lonely and bored now.
well, I'm going to tell you what I've learned to overcome that because this is the longest. To be honest, this is the longest period of sobriety, like completely sober, that I have had in 20 years. So
Wow,
so
that's
it's
amazing.
incredible, and I've learned the trick. I've learned the secret that really helps me stay in that newborn state. But
Tell
first,
us.
so I would then I would relapse because I liked the excitement. Then I would be using long enough to where that would plateau and it would get boring, and I would get sober. But what I have discovered, which is really cool, is through, and it sounds, I don't want this to sound too dogmatic, but through prayer and mantra every morning. because I close my eyes in the morning when I sit there and I do these mantras, and the frequencies, the vibrations, they're like vibrating throughout all my body. When I open my eyes, that moment where the grass looks new and colors are more vivid and the sky looks incredible, it happens every
Wow.
single day. And it's so cool because like if I can, all I have to do, I don't have to hurt my body to experience that level of like joy and serenity and those really great feelings that come with being newly sober. They call it the pink cloud, quote unquote. I am wearing a pink shirt, but like I can live that pink cloud every single day by practicing devotion, by using the technologies that are 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 years old that the yogis have been using for centuries to access that state of mind naturally. It's there and it's
Yeah.
available, and it doesn't come with a hangover, which is
Yeah.
the best part.
That's the best thing by far. I remember waking up every day and just like feeling like garbage. Like you're just
Yeah.
constantly chasing, putting something in your body to feel better. That's like exhausting.
It is exhausting. And you know, and when you get to that when I got to that place of like, is this going to be the one that kills me? Is this going to be the one that kills me? Is this going to
Yeah.
be the one? I don't know if this one, I don't know if I'm going to wake up from this one. Oh, maybe this one will be the one to do it. But you know, I'm really grateful to my higher power, to the universe, to whatever anyone decides to call that energy that none of us can explain, that it had a purpose enough for me that I'm still here today to have this conversation, and that I was able to find like the thing that I've been looking for, which was in the mirror the entire time.
Well, I'm so glad you're doing so well and that now you're giving back in such a beautiful way with all the work that you're doing. You know, what's weird is like for me, when I was using, I would have those moments too where I was like, oh my God, my heart is barely beating. I did so much drugs. I don't know if I'm going to wake up. And I was scared of death. I was scared of passing away. But now that I'm sober and really connected spiritually, I don't have a fear of death at all. It's
Hmm.
absolutely wild.
I mean, I can relate to that also. You know, what I want to bring, I want to kind of plug in earth medicine here because, you know, what happens when this is because that's what led me to my place of no longer fearing death was my ayahuasca ceremonies, the practicing earth medicine like we do here at Merkaba retreats. But the thing is, what happens is our brain, a lot of the neurons are no longer firing like they're supposed to. And so we're living our lives through this limited filter. And so in order to like get our brains to this level of homeostasis, we continue to take this substance because it takes it as close to homeostasis as we can get because we've done the damage to our brain. And one of the miraculous effects of earth medicine, like psilocybin, 5-MeO DMT, DMT from ayahuasca, you know, what they do is they cause all of the neurons in your brain to fire almost simultaneously. And
Mm,
so what's interesting is that is also what happens in your brain right before you die. And so it creates a simulated near-death experience. That I don't want to scare anybody here, but it creates a simulated near-death experience while your body is safe. So it's allowing you to have this connection to all that is that would be similar to when we pass, but with your body being safe and with you able to come back from that experience. And so what's so cool is when it does that is all of those areas of your brain that have been atrophying because of substance abuse are now lighting up again. So it's bringing all of these things back online. And when they're
right.
back online, we're operating at our full capacity. And so it shortens like the post-acute withdrawal period of substance abuse. And it's been
Right.
proven to help people with substance abuse disorders and with various addictions recover and stay recovered for longer periods of time, if not, I'm not going to say forever because, you know, we only have one day at a time, but you know, to stay recovered and to walk that journey and to really connect with the spiritual aspect of their recovery in a way that feels tangible for them.
Right. So you're saying it cuts the symptoms of withdrawal essentially so that you can recover quicker.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, because that for me was hands down the hardest part. It's like the body aches and the sweating and like the not sleeping and the depression. Like I literally cried over burning toast. Like I was just crying all the time. And like you just feel like life is never going to be interesting ever again. Like
Yeah.
that's the worst. Like withdrawal is literally the worst.
No, I mean, and that's the thing that causes a lot of people to stay in their abuse cycle is the withdrawal. It
Yeah.
seems like it lasts forever. But I mean, the one thing that's why it's important that we're having this conversation because it doesn't last forever, and
No, it doesn't.
we do recover, and we do thrive, and that's what I want most people to know is it feels like forever because every moment is forever. Every now, it's always now, but the nows improve when you stick to it.
Absolutely. So tell us about the work that you're now doing and how you're helping other people.
Well, I mean, we have Archer Shaw coaching. I do spiritual coaching, spiritual wellness coaching, embodiment yoga. I'm all about getting people into their body to, as I was speaking earlier, it's like my relationship with my body has drastically changed over the course of my recovery, over the course of my life. And I see the reflection of that every time I look in the mirror. I want people to recognize that our bodies are designed for divinity to express itself. And I know divinity is a really hefty word. It's kind of a lofty word, kind of woo-woo word. But once we begin to have that relationship with our bodies and experience the electricity that moves through the 90 billion cells of our body that are
Yeah.
all working together. Like when we think of this, like if we want the world around us to work in harmony, we need to learn to live in harmony with ourselves because every single cell in our body is working together for us to have this experience. If they didn't work together, we would fall apart, and there would be no experience to
Yeah.
be had. And so we can use our bodies as that launching off place. Like when we have this relationship with our body, when we sit in stillness, when we increase the level of communication that we have with each of our body parts and each of the chakra centers and the energy centers in our body, what happens is we start to engage with the world with more coherence. And so it's
Yeah.
all about living a coherent, aligned life, and that's what I teach on. That's what I coach on, and that's one of the things that we work on here at Merkaba Retreats. Where one of the things we do are for veterans. We do special retreats just for veterans who are healing from PTSD, where we use psilocybin, 5-MeO DMT from the bufo frog. We do it. We use combo, and combo is from an Amazonian tree frog. It's not psychedelic, but what it does is it contains 9 peptides, and these 9 peptides they intuitively know, or your body intuitively knows where they're needed to clear toxins from your body, to bring balance, to help heal through post-acute withdrawal symptoms, depression. Like they've been shown to cure certain kinds of cancer, certain incurable diseases. I'm not going to name them because I'm not going to make any medical statements that I
Yeah.
can't back up. But has been shown to cure certain incurable diseases, and so we're really engage with this relationship not with only with our bodies but with the earth mother because she is the bigger body, and just like we have cells in our body that help heal us, she's provided us resources to bring us all back into a coherent life.
So how do you work with people? Do you do like an intake and you kind of you get to know where they're at, and then is that how you determine what kind of plant medicine to provide to them or what's going to benefit them the most? How does it work?
Well, with coaching, we do a 30-minute consult call. I have several different offerings that I employ, that I engage. There's astrology, numerology, past life regression. There's all these different areas, and it all depends on where they're at, what their spiritual belief system is. I integrate artificial intelligence as well. I help them develop an artificial intelligence through prompt engineering that works with them, that meets them where they're at spiritually. So they always have this mirror reflection of where they're at through their AI oracle that I help them create. That's usually a part of our work together. The intake is only 30 minutes long. We do send them intake paperwork. They have to provide a medical questionnaire because there are certain medications that are counterintuitive if they're going to come down for a retreat and do any earth medicine. We provide, what's the word I'm looking for? Post-retreat, oh, I can't think of the word. Follow-up calls. There's a better
Reintegration?
word for it. And thank you very much. That's the word I'm looking for. We do
Yeah.
we provide 3 or 4 integration sessions after their retreat is over
Mhm.
to follow up with them to make sure they're integrating the experience into their lives. My partner, Christopher, he's been a psychotherapist for 17 years, a sex addiction therapist for 17 years. And so we have a lot of years and years of experience, the both of us. And so we really love just watching people heal. I mean, seeing that light
Yeah.
bulb go off in their eyes, that they finally get it and they're at this place where they can live a balanced life.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story so much and for being so vulnerable. It's really endearing. And I am a true believer that the people that can help other people the most are the ones that have been through stuff like this. Because you get it. Like you know what
Mhm.
it's like to be on the other side. And that's a powerful, powerful quality to have as a healer. I have an interesting question for you. I know that you spoke about being like addicted to sex. And I know for me, when I got sober, suddenly I felt pleasure on a level that I had never felt before in my life. So I want to tell the audience that pleasure in the entire body gets better when you're sober. So it's worth it. I don't know about your experience. What do you think about that?
Well, so my sex addiction was really tied into a lot of my trauma from childhood. For me, it's still an evolving process. I'm still working through how to be comfortable in intimate settings. I'm getting better, and it doesn't get better unless you practice. If
Yeah.
I when I first got sober, I'm like, I'm just going to be celibate for the rest of my life. That was my thought because I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to face any of those things, but I realized that celibacy isn't healthy for me. It may be healthy for other people, but it's not healthy for me because I am a sexual being, and it's another energy that I want to have a healthy relationship with. And
Mm,
so, that's still evolving. I'm still growing. I think I'm really fortunate to have an amazing partner who, like I said, it was a sex addiction therapist who's fun to
yeah.
practice on. So, so I see. That's what I'm saying. Like, really, all of the pieces were divinely orchestrated for me to live my best life, and so I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, well, we're grateful for you. Thank you so much for being here and for, like I said, talking about this. Do you have any last minute thoughts you want to leave the audience with today?
Recovery relapse is a part can be a part of the recovery journey, and that gets better. That life is beautiful, and even in the darkest moments, I've learned that every single experience in my life has value.
Hmm.
And I want them to know that every single experience in their life has value. But when I'm sober, that value is transformational. But when I'm using, that value is detrimental.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Every moment in life has meaning and is part of our story,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to link all of your links in the show notes for people so they can access you and check out your website and more about what you guys do. But it's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Always awesome.
Always awesome. Yes. And to anyone out there who might be struggling, take it one moment at a time, 1 minute at a time. It does get easier. Aeon and I are both testaments of that. If we can do it, you can do it. Anyone can do it. Also, don't be afraid to reach out for help. Reach out for help. Tell somebody you're struggling because nobody can read your mind. So, we want people to feel good and get better. So, do the
Mhm.
work, you guys, even if it's hard. Take care, everyone.